Welcome back to Bad Movies Rule, the worst movie podcast ever recorded. I'm amazed they still let us have this podcast. But maybe today will be the day the podcast police come and break down the studio door, because we're talking about Air America.
It's awesome. With the floor moving today, we can almost imagine that there's flak cannons going off right outside of our airplane.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have some turbulence here in the studio today.
There's something going on today. Is it a yoga class above our heads or something?
I think it's a spin class without the spinny things.
There's something.
Yeah, there's this stomp.
It's going to make
They're recording the next episode of Stomp upstairs.
It's going to make it all the more immersive for us to talk about Air America, the greatest movie ever made about Air America.
This is one of my favorites, personally.
Yeah.
This is my draft pick.
That's right. So, as you heard, Clint Bush is with us this morning, and this is indeed his draft pick.
It's an early one, too.
So
this is like a round 2 for me, I think.
Whatever happens, we're going to lay this directly at your feet.
I'll take the heat.
Okay.
I think you can chalk this up as a win.
I'll take the applause and the adulation, all of it.
All right. Well, as you heard, Mel Vandy's also with us, and so you're on Team Clint here.
Yes.
As far, okay. Well,
I'm on Team Air America.
Team Air America. It's not my team. I just found it.
Well, your team is growing by the minute. Also joining us this morning is Ryan Mueller, the host of Living with Liberty, is back again with us since the Postman. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. If I were to categorize this, I would say this is the Seinfeld of movies. It's about nothing.
Perfect.
All right. It sounds like it's going to be...
It's just as funny.
It's going to be 2v2, I think, today. Well, great, guys. I appreciate that you're all here. And for the listener at home, I appreciate that you're listening. You know, we've been doing this for, we started in May, so it's been a handful of months now, and the podcast continues to grow, and we just want to say that we appreciate that you've been listening. And we're trying to differentiate ourselves in a crowded space, right? There's lots of movie podcasts out there. So it'd be a big help to us if, however you listen to the show, if you could find a way to support it. So whether you can leave a review on the podcast app that you utilize, if it allows for that, great. If you can share it on social media, if you can tell a friend about it, whatever you can do to support the show and help us get out there, we would very much appreciate it. And again, we thank you for listening. If you'd like to connect with the show, the best way to connect with us, to offer suggestions, to tell us how terrible we are, you can send an email directly to thisshowIstrash@gmail.com. And then every once in a while, we're going to throw a mailbag episode together and we'll read your emails live on the show.
Recorded.
Live recorded.
Yes. One thing not to do to contact us, however.
It just sounds better to say live.
Don't wrap the name in a piece of paper around a rock and throw it to people's windows. Don't do that.
That's why we made the email address.
Right.
So that the hate mail wouldn't be literally thrown through our windows.
It was just that one guy, though.
Right. That's why we made it.
Well, right.
Thanks, Bob. Oh, yeah, please. And any hate mail for Bob, we're still trying to collect. So that would be great.
We need it for his Christmas present.
All right, well, let's get the vitals out of the way so that I can get I'm really interested to hear what your overall impressions are of the movie, but let's lay out all of the details here for this film. This is, as we said, Air America, 1990. And he was directed by, this guy's got a fun name to say, Roger Spottiswoode. You know who this guy is?
Negative.
No.
Okay.
Guy with a fun last name.
This guy, listen to this trio. This movie, Air America, was sandwiched right between two other movies that made for maybe one of the greatest triple plays in American director history.
All right, let's do this.
Right before Air America, this guy directed Turner and Hooch, the all-time cinematic classic.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Turner and Hooch. Then Air America. Then he followed that up. Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Nice. These are
So
good.
what happened in
Classic.
that middle one?
There's nothing wrong with the middle one.
I feel like Stop or My Mom Will Shoot is one of those movies that's just destined to be on this podcast someday.
Sure.
That Stallone and Estelle Getty classic.
She washed the bluing off his gun.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Well, the most important thing that this guy did was probably he directed an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, so that'll be the peak of his career. You guys ever see The Sixth Day?
No.
Nobody
did.
Everybody saw that knows what movies are.
Nobody saw that.
All right, fire.
I stopped at The Fifth Element.
The Sixth Day was just this movie where Arnold clones himself, and they literally have a conversation at one point. It's great. That's the only thing I remember about it.
Conversations. Good
Yes.
for movies.
Yes.
The movie was written by John Escow and Richard Rush. Probably the only thing you'd recognize John from. He wrote Mask of Zorro, which was the reboot of Zorro starring
Antonio Banderas.
And Anthony Hopkins and Catherine Zeta-Jones. This movie starred Mel Gibson, Robert Downey Jr., Nancy Travis, and a ton of those guys.
Oh, yeah.
That guy especially.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's
He was
tons
in
of
it
those
twice.
guys. What were some of those guys that you saw? Not their actual names, but the guy from. Do you remember what any of these guys were from?
Nope.
Yes.
Wasn't paying
Okay.
attention.
Coach from, what was it, League of Their Own? Or no, what was it?
There was the guy from Scrubs. Okay, right?
Yeah,
Not that guy. The other one.
That guy.
No, the other guy.
There's
yeah.
the guy from My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah.
The guy that played the prosecutor in My Cousin Vinny. There's the
Yep.
guy from Field of Dreams. The
That's
dude,
it, Field of Dreams,
the dude
yep.
from Total Recall that had the Quaid thing coming out of his stomach, right? Was one of the pilots. The guy that played Weird Al's buddy in UHF,
Yep.
was in the movie, and then the guy that General Song was Kato from the Pink Panther movies.
Nice.
There you go.
So there's just tons of those guys in this movie. This movie had a budget of $35 million.
Planes are expensive.
Yeah, fuel.
Yeah. Opium.
Oh, I was just going to
High
say.
opium cost on
Poppies.
this.
Bobbies.
Poppy farms.
Well, they did have Robert Downey Jr. in this movie, so I'm sure an opium was part of the budget.
There was an opium budget, definitely.
So this wasn't what put him on that track then.
Well, maybe.
Well, and he is a method actor, so I'm sure that they were flying actual heroin.
That's right. I'm sorry, I'm just not able to get into the right headspace for this scene. Can we get some actual heroin in here?
So those weren't sacks of flour then.
No.
No. On a $35 million budget, it actually made money. It made $57 million, so it made a decent profit, $22 million. That's not the reason it's on this podcast. Here's the reason it's on this podcast.
Because it has 14 plots and none of them really gel together for a movie.
Yes, but
Yes.
The critics hated it.
it's at a 5.8. It's a sub 6 right now on IMDb.
Perfect. That's above half.
And no, it's not perfect. That's bad. And
Well, if
it's
it was any higher, we wouldn't be here.
at 13% on Rotten Tomatoes right now.
That is a
What do
badge
critics
of
know?
honor
Yeah.
right there.
Well, okay, the audience score is still like 35%.
Yes.
What do audiences know?
Yeah.
A movie's got to be liked by one. If the critics like
Yeah,
it,
me.
you're going to win some awards.
on it.
Even if the people hate it. If the critics hate it, but the people love it, then it's a cult classic. This has none of that.
Oh, that'll happen.
And I don't understand why.
Hey, maybe after this show.
Okay, all right, I got it. I got to find out, Clint. And since it's your draft pick, you're going to go first. Tell me your overall impressions of the movie. What is it you love so much about this film?
It's just nonstop. It's like it's not a comedy, but it's really funny. Like it was. I thought all the interactions between the people were actually quite humorous and funny, and I enjoyed that. I don't know. I just thought that I like the actors that are in it. Mad Max, Iron Man. How
Okay.
can this fail?
I heard you acknowledge a minute ago that there's 14
Absolutely.
plots that go nowhere.
Absolutely. There isn't like a setup straight. There is, but there isn't like a setup straight. Here is absolutely where we're going with no side turns. This is all side turns.
Okay.
But it's
So it's more
I
the
don't care about
relational,
that. Yeah.
the comedy between the characters that
yes,
makes you love
absolutely.
it. Okay. All right. Well, Ryan, how about you? What are your overall? Is this the first time you'd ever seen it?
Yeah, I think it was. I
Okay.
thought when we had talked, I said I'd seen it, but then I got into it. Yeah, I hadn't seen this one.
Okay. So coming in fresh, what did you think?
So I was at a hockey game down by O'Hare last night. I would have rather watched
Irrelevant.
2 hours of planes taking off than this thing.
Well, isn't that kind of 2 hours of planes taking off was this movie, wasn't it?
It was. And you know what? There's probably heroin on those planes taking off at O'Hare, too. I don't know.
Gotta be
But-
some trace amounts anyway.
Oh, all of these guys ended up becoming pilots at O'Hare when they in their retirement
So
anyway.
they had to go somewhere.
Right.
I think there's some movies where you can have multiple plots that go nowhere and it works. There wasn't too much of the humor in there to make that happen for me in this movie.
I got
I
you.
think, I was real excited because it's, Mel Gibson. I think Mel Gibson's a great actor. He's got a lot of kind of depth and breadth to what he can do, and wasn't feeling it. Definitely wasn't his best work, I don't think, in this one. And then, Robert Downey Jr., I didn't get enough of the snark from him that you typically get, right? I like the scene where he's harassing the truck driver, and then after that, it's like he almost goes to like good guy and is astonished at their running the dope game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was excited to see Mel. Like, this is our first movie with Mel. So, yeah, no, I agree. I agree with everything you said. Mel, speaking of Mel's.
For Mel's everywhere, it's good to see representation in film. I will say, yes, the entire movie is a cluster F, but anything dealing with the government is pretty much a cluster F.
I think it was dead on. Hey.
Yes, complete incompetence.
The government's got this going on over here. They go and recruit a guy who's obviously already a screw up.
Right.
And like you say, there's not enough snarkiness with him. I think that just goes to underscore the fact he's like, hey, in LA, I'm the weirdest guy in the room. I come over here and everybody's more effed up than I am.
I think for me, this is what on paper, it looks like it can't lose, right? You've got Mel Gibson at the height of his powers.
Yeah.
Right. This is like right after Lethal Weapon 2. He's going to step after this into a bunch of other classic movies like Braveheart and Ransom. Yeah. Oh man, love that movie. But he's kind of sleepwalking through this movie. Then you get Robert Downey Jr., the two of them together. Why wouldn't this? But he almost seems like a different person then, like pre-crisis than he does now. It's like almost like he found his voice afterwards, and now he's got his like RDJ thing that he does. And he really is biting and snarky and really good at that, but he hadn't really discovered that yet. So there are like moments in the movie where I kind of see the future Robert Downey Jr. like in there, but I don't know. To me, it was like I was worried this was going to be like the Steve Miller Band of movies. Like, it's not bad enough to be funny, but it's also like not good enough to care about. Like for me personally,
like background music.
Yeah, kind of like like what's this movie trying to be? Right? It's doesn't
perfect for the way I watch movies.
Is it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Little bits here and there on paying attention, know it all, stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way I watch movies, and I want to watch for entertainment and to wind down. I do not want to immerse myself in this story.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do is figure out what version of this movie works, right? Because I don't think it works as a comedy, like as a broad studio comedy.
That's what I'm saying. It's not a comedy, and it's not a serious.
It doesn't work as a period, like a war piece, or
Right.
So maybe it works.
Because there was no war in Laos.
Well, maybe it works.
There was, but we weren't there.
They weren't there. Well, that's right.
In fact, we're not even having this conversation right now.
We're not.
Well, it may not have happened for you, Mel.
Maybe it works as an aviation picture. And I think the movie that does work within, what is there is maybe like you said, like a hangout movie. Like it's the kind of movie where you're spending 2 hours hanging out with these characters. And so it's more like you can enjoy it for that. And then maybe that's the only way it works. I don't know.
Absolutely. Especially when you look at all the scenes separately, each one of those little story scene, like you said, the Seinfeld of, and I never even put it to that way. It's like, yeah, absolutely. It's all these little scenes that are funny goings on that aren't really a whole together as an actual movie, but a good put together of, hey, these characters' interaction between in a timeline that actually makes sense with itself.
Yeah.
So that part I enjoyed.
Well, here's the question. When you're watching this, were you actually hooked? I mean, were you interested in what happened, or did you kind of blow it off?
I watched it twice, and I think both times.
You watched it the second time?
I did, because I like to go back and maybe try and catch stuff I didn't catch the first time around. I wasn't necessarily hooked. I think the Hangout movie, that's probably a good way to put it. You put it on as background noise, and
everybody turns and looks when he's shooting iguanas on the golf course.
I thought that was hilarious. That was funny. That was a funny part.
It's those moments. Hey, wake him up. I got to take him to work. That's a great moment. They fly him through.
I think it needed more of those moments so to work.
Perhaps.
Here's the thing. People are all over the board on this movie. Okay. I printed out, these are real reviews. Okay. From regular people. These are not from critics. This is from off of IMDb. This is
who's the first one?
Bad review. Okay.
Who's the first review from?
I don't know. I didn't put the person's name in here.
Oh, I hate him. Nobody likes that guy.
So listen to this. This is just the gamut of opinions you get here. This movie has been stapled to the wall of a chapel as proof that God is truly dead. Am I the only one that really saw, rather sleptwalked through this film? This is the only movie I've ever seen in the theater that I regret not walking out on and demanding my money back. And I even saw Highlander 2, The Quickening.
This guy's a douche. Straight up.
From beginning to end, Gibson and Downey have absolutely no chemistry as two unlikelies cast together by circumstance who eventually work together as best buds.
That's been my entire life.
That's kind of how things go.
The action, what little there is goofy and it's dull as the skull bone of a writer. It's never heard somebody called a skull bone before. Thank whatever deity is chortling down at us as it observes our cinema that there's no chance for an Air America 2. 1 out of 10.
This guy is trying so hard to be hardcore. I guarantee he lives in his mother's basement and owns nothing but an Xbox.
I was just going to say, sounds like a Hot Pocket eating basement dweller to me.
He's clown shoes.
He just literally compared it to The Quickening. Highlander 2 is a terrible movie.
I don't even know
All
what
right,
that
so
is.
here's a
Never
good
seen
one.
it.
Here's a good review. Good review. I like the bit where they dangle the bloke at the end of the rope. 10 out of 10.
Yep.
There you go.
We already talked about that scene here.
I did
So-
like that scene, and he's doing like yoga or dancing or
Well,
whatever.
at first he's
and-
like startled and hey, F you know.
My favorite one I saw. One sentence, 10 out of 10.
Perfect.
I mean, it's to the point.
Yeah.
I don't know about the 10 out of 10 part. I feel like the one sentence.
Well, let's jump in, guys. Let's just go right into this movie, and we'll walk through, and then hopefully by the end, either me and Ryan will have gained a better appreciation for it, or you will have realized how terrible
Or
this is.
nothing will change.
Or nothing will change, which is probably far more likely. But this movie has this opening credit sequence. Now, I'm happy that you're here, Mel, because Mel is himself a rookie. Can I say rookie pilot? Is that accurate? Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been taking lessons for?
About what my bank account can afford.
Okay.
So,
15 minutes.
yeah.
How many hours?
No, I got about 12, 14 hours.
Okay, so pretty new still.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
but you've flown,
Yes.
and you know a lot about planes and military and all that stuff.
Yep.
Okay, so do you know what kind of plane that is in the beginning of that opening sequence that's flying through the big giant, big-bellied silver plane?
Yes.
What is it?
It's an airplane.
Okay, that's super
No,
helpful.
a C-123 provider, actually.
Okay, C-123.
It's a 2-engine version of the C-130.
Gotcha. So in the opening sequence,
Yes.
a farmer takes one shot
Possibly.
Yep.
and brings down the C-123.
Possible.
Absolutely.
Is it possible?
Absolutely possible. Unlikely? Absolutely. Possible? Yes.
So planes
Okay.
are hard to hit with rifles.
Well, yeah, that's what.
But
that's
if you
what I'm
hit a
saying.
plane with a rifle and an engine, you
But
hurt.
planes are not bulletproof.
Right.
We're not talking combat planes here. We're talking thin skin metal on the outside. I mean, it's a tin can.
Okay.
You can't
yes.
shoot the engine. You can't hurt the engine. The engine can start on fire. The engine can pop the wing. Fuel tanks.
Which are full of fuel, by the way.
There you go.
All the wings, the empty space in the wing, it's full of fuel.
So yes,
Okay.
it's possible. Unlikely, absolutely, but it's a story. Keep going.
So from what I understand, this is the golden BB that the guy's freaking out about through the whole
No,
movie, right?
no,
That's
no.
the golden BB
is flak.
is flak, that big black poof.
okay. So from what my half-assed internet research told me, like that is the single golden BB is just the single random shot that takes down your plane, like the 1 in a million shot,
Right.
Like as demonstrated in the beginning of the movie. So maybe it's not. I'm just saying this is just what I looked up and read. But I wasn't. I mean, just immediately off the bat, I was like, I'm interested to know if it was really possible. And you're
Yes,
saying it is.
absolutely.
So I'm learning something already.
Planes crash all the time, from minor fuel leaks to
Bird strike.
bird strikes. I mean, a bird will kill your engine.
Right.
You hit something. So
What would you say the degree of difficulty of a shot with a plane traveling? How fast is that thing probably going? A couple hundred miles an hour?
172 to 200 knots.
All right. And then you got a farmer with a gun that's probably, the sights are off, I'm guessing, on that thing. And
Like he had a muzzle loader or something.
right. That's what I'm saying. To hit that shot with the plane going.
Good lead.
You got to lead at 2 football fields estimated for a jet and 1 football field for a prop plane.
Okay.
So about 100 yards in front of it, and
We'll sign that guy up because that was.
And then he walked away all cool and calm and collected.
and the plane wasn't very high off the ground. I mean, it was only
You didn't see the 500 planes he shot one shot at and missed, though. I mean,
Got it. The one thing I will say during this opening credit sequence, which is basically this plane flying around, dropping off, sacks of rice through people's ceilings.
that was less,
And stuff.
useful. That's not helpful. Thanks for the rice.
Here's some rice.
jerk.
Your house is destroyed. Build a new hut, but you'll be full
It
while you're
explains
doing
why
it.
the farmers want to shoot at him.
But the soundtrack of this movie was actually really good, and that's
Awesome.
the first thing. Yeah,
I wrote down the best part of this movie was the soundtrack.
yeah,
It's,
right.
probably 20% of the budget for the film.
Well, that's what I was thinking as I'm watching. Like, man,
expensive.
how much did this cost? Because what Free Ride was the first song
Yep.
during that opening sequence, right? And it fits.
Rescue Me and
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
stuff.
So that was really, really good.
No Fortunate Son though.
No,
That was
because
We had helicopters without Fortunate Son.
it's such a cliche at this point, though.
you
I
know
almost
what,
feel
though?
like
It's prescribed. I mean, you have to.
they shouldn't have been allowed to finish this movie without putting it in
Exactly.
there, right?
That's why the critics hated it.
That could be.
Not enough Fortunate Son.
That might have just got it right to 6. Right there.
Would have changed the trajectory of this whole thing.
It may have been there, but got cut in the budget.
Yeah, so the movie starts with a horrible plane crash and death.
Yep.
From
Welcome
this
to
character.
Aviation.
Basically. Yeah.
Yeah, which also is one of the only times in the movie I laughed out loud.
Yeah.
Well, if he's not dead, he's real calm.
Well, that wasn't even it. It was
Oh.
well, here's this guy's body, and it's laying in such a way
Yeah.
that it's just like, geez, right? And the guy runs up. Is he dead?
Yeah.
That just shows you how clueless government is.
American
perfect.
intelligence.
Please do not use the
Rob,
terms
I
American
wish you wouldn't use the words
intelligence.
American intelligence to describe what you do.
Oh, look, you guys are laughing because the
Yeah.
movie was awesome. I hate you.
I'm
I'm glad I made you drive to Milwaukee last week for nothing.
So I guess. Well, before I ask that question, I want to get all the chess pieces into Laos, right? And so we've established that Mel Gibson is this, devil may care pilot. Obviously, he's cracking jokes while this plane is burning on the tarmac, and seems like he doesn't want to be there at all. And it cuts directly then to Robert Downey Jr. in a helicopter in Los Angeles.
Doing the news.
Yep. The traffic report.
Yeah.
I still love his rendition of that song, and I
too
legitimately,
hard?
every time I hear it on the radio, I give his falsetto too damn hard.
Can you give it to us now?
Yeah.
Too damn hard. I mean, I have to. I absolutely
See, again, that's a
love
win.
that part. I have to.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. That one, since I saw this movie when I was a kid, we're talking, this is what?
Or
30 years ago.
12?
Yeah.
11?
Yeah, this is darn near 30 years ago. I bet I saw it on VHS, so we'll call it 29 years I've been making that song wrong because of this movie, and that's awesome.
That's right. It's the little things like that is what I pull from films all the
Yeah.
time. Right? Absolutely. And like I've said 100 times, I feel like on this podcast, whether you like a movie or not has as much to do with when you saw it
Yeah.
Yes.
as whether it's any good or not. And
Yes.
if you saw it when you were 11 years old, that probably has a lot to do with why you love it.
Yeah.
And if I had seen it then, I might love it too. Right?
Potentially.
Look at The Big Lebowski.
Oh, dude.
I hated that movie the first time I saw it. I absolutely love it now.
Yeah. I believe it. It's
We're no longer brothers.
Catch it at the right time.
It happens.
But here's my question. Has anybody ever, before he even sees the traffic jam or the semi there,
Yeah.
he's like real low
He's
for
real low.
a traffic copter.
Yeah.
Chopper.
They're showing how reckless he is. And
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
why you
that's why.
Because he's flying like right above these cars.
Yeah, he's like 250 feet.
Yeah. Well, and then he has an argument. So he sees a semi blocking
Pulls right up.
and pulls right up to have a conversation with the guy.
Broadcasting live on the air.
I saw that. I was like, this, okay.
You can't
I
scream
like
it
where
from
this movie's
250
going
feet
right
away.
now.
Right.
I mean, here he
get
is.
it.
He's chastising his truck driver for blocking the lane. The truck driver, the truck
blocking
driver's being an
two
idiot.
usable
Oh,
lanes
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
pushing people to the shoulder.
And he's sitting there just, yeah, right.
Well, it just shows. I almost forgot like what era this took place in because when it came up on the guy, like just watching the accident, I was like expecting him to be filming it with his phone, but he's just sitting there looking at it, right?
Right.
Because if it had been now, that's what would have been happening,
He was taking a mental picture.
right? So he could tell people later.
Right.
What is that about traffic accidents that everybody has to slow down? What are we trying to see?
They want to see what happens so that they can
Get
tell other
involved in
people.
it.
Now people drive by like this.
Yeah.
Well, Brad, I know.
and then
what-
rear end the car in front of him.
why though? What's the fascination?
People are stupid.
See, he's saying like Robert Downey Jr.'s character in the movie says it's because people want to see a fatality or a dead
Yes.
body or something. When I drive past an accident, I'll admit I'm curious to see what happened, but I try and keep it speedy. But I'm definitely not trying to catch a body.
I'm not
morbid
blocking two
curiosity.
lanes to try and see what's going on.
No.
While the
People-
ambulance is trying to get there.
People like to see stuff they don't normally see.
Is that all it is?
Think about Stand By Me. That's the entire plot.
Hey, you
Let's
guys
go
want to
see
go
a
see a
dead
dead body?
Right.
Yeah, I guess.
So for some people, that's their excitement as they're driving to their 9 to 5 or driving their truck, doing meth and all the other stuff. And,
Right.
that's their action film right there.
I will say the coolest thing I drove by on my way to work one time was going down 94 on the tollway and the toll plaza at Waukegan Toll Plaza. There was a van that was upside down inside the toll booth lane. Like it had pulled
Hit
up,
the divider.
like it had pulled up to give its change. That's where it was. It was right in front of the booth, but upside down.
Can you imagine that guy? He probably had to flick the change up.
It's just like, I want to know.
Down, actually.
The toll workers out there outside the window just picking up the change, and
The guy reached over to grab his quarters and
I'm just like, I want to just go.
said
I want to know how this happened. It
Well, he
ended up
preset-
perfectly upside down.
He preset his change on the dash. And then when he had to step on the brakes, it fell into the defroster vents, and it was the only way to get it out, or he wouldn't have been able to get through the toll.
I mean, 40
He had
cents
to-
was
it's
40
like, we got to
cents.
flip this thing.
Was this pre or post iPass? Because it could have been 80 cents.
Oh gosh, I don't. it was a long time ago.
Waukegan Toll Plaza's been closed for years. for those that care about the Illinois toll system,
That's right.
It was supposed to go away many years ago.
It was. All right. So here's the funny thing. He pulls up this helicopter and has an argument live on air with the truck, and so the radio stations does I think the right thing and fires him.
But that had nothing to do with the radio station.
No,
The
he's, got his
FAA
license
pulled his
suspended.
ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got his pilot's license.
Oh, that's right. The FAA pulled his license, and
probably great for radio ratings.
well, I was just thinking of the fact that his boss seemed to be a little bit panicky that they were dropping F-bombs live on the air.
It's only 5,000
And
each occurrence.
but he's recruited by the CIA and in Laos within 10 minutes of this movie.
Yes.
Like
Perfect.
immediately.
And he
Did
looked
it
tired on
establish?
that plane too, like he just went from couch to Laos, just
Yeah.
like that.
Like that. Like boom. Which is fine. I appreciate movies not wasting time and like let's get them, let's get all the chess pieces
We
on
should
the
have
board.
sat there for the 16-hour flight, I think. That would have been better film.
But
Like 24.
I'm amazed
real time.
how the CIA was so on top of him at the time that he had gotten
We don't
fired.
know how on top, like I said, how on top all that is. I know he's got the letter in the mail. He did not get his FAA license in the mail revoked the next day after this
Right.
incident.
No, that's weeks.
But they had already showed that it's like the worst part is we need more of these pilots. These pilots are crazy. We
Yeah.
need our nut jobs. We need more of them. Well, that shows you that we're trying to find pilots with a moral compass that maybe not exactly straight.
Yeah.
A little insane, want to come do this, not in the military already. So they're recruiting. They found, here's a guy without a license. He's an action junkie. Let's get after him,
Fair enough.
So who knows how much time was literally spent in the movie, but it definitely...
Yeah.
They
At
probably
least
just waited
a
for the
few days
FAA
of mail.
to,
Well, regardless, he's
cancellations.
he's in Laos, and here's the question that I wanted to ask before. What do any of us actually know about what was going on over there? The Air America
Nothing was going
thing?
on over there. It didn't happen.
Well, I mean seriously, because this was a real thing, right?
Yes. And I actually know I read the book many
You did,
years
okay.
ago. Yes.
So this was in Laos, not in Vietnam.
Correct.
But, so was there a secret war going on in Laos?
There was a civil war going on in Laos.
Civil war.
Yes.
But was there a secret war that the Americans were involved in?
We can't answer that. Yes.
Okay.
The Americans were providing supplies and they were backing certain warlords.
Gotcha. So from what I was able to gather, again, with my 5 minutes of internet research, there are some that claim this movie is a total work of fiction.
Potentially.
There's a lot of
And
fiction
there's
in it.
nothing
yes.
wrong with that.
But was this kind of stuff actually happening, do you think?
Yes.
Somewhat, yeah. Was there an actual government plot to frame its pilots so that the other people?
That's not what I meant.
Yeah, but I'm saying that part is probably more fiction than anything. But were they actually running back and forth on these supply redrops? I'd have to be willing to say yes.
Yes, they were running guns, for local warlords and stuff. They were, the drug trade thing.
That's really the thing I'm asking, because they make the comment later in the movie. It says that no one's ever won a war in this area of the world without controlling the opium trade.
Well, because that's your money.
That's where all the money is there, yeah.
It's their greatest export.
So is this the kind of stuff that is happening in these conflicts that America and I know we're getting serious here for a comedy podcast, but are they getting knee deep in the drug trade in these countries when they're in there doing this stuff?
It's happening in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
I would have to assume
Really?
it has to be.
Yes.
This just shows how ignorant I am of this
That's
stuff.
why you have these entire, again, and it wasn't that, but you have these entire like Three Kings movies, all these other movies where, hey, this happens and this stuff goes missing. Well, where does it go? All of that kind of stuff. I mean, somebody is doing something while they're there, and who are the people with the power to make it happen?
There's an element of truth to some of what's in this movie, just because of, especially with the CIA's going into really get on the ground with some of these warlords to help our own effort, right? So, and whatever that takes is what they do.
Now, if we as the American people would pay our fair share in actual taxes, what we should be paying, then they wouldn't have to do this kind of stuff. But since we don't, they do.
Or all right, reduce the size of our government.
Well, I do. I try and avoid. I tried. All right.
Did I do that?
I try and avoid getting political on this show.
My other podcast, I'm going to stay on that one
at all costs. So we're going to move right along.
Was that me?
We're going to move right along.
Firing that flag in the air.
I just set that on the tee and see what happens.
Golden BB.
He gets over to Laos and he's introduced. He walks kind of into this first meeting. And so this is the first of many times we are introduced to this morning huddle thing that these pilots are doing. And essentially what I gather is their job is they wake up every morning and they're told, this is what you're flying today. This is the plane or the chopper, and this is what you're transporting, and here's the route that you're taking.
Yeah.
And that's their job.
It's kind of like a taxi stand.
Yeah. It's dangerous because depending upon which route you get, you might get shot at.
Right.
And their people are, getting killed. I mean, they just lost a pilot at the beginning of the movie. I don't know how often that happens, but it's a pretty dangerous job.
Twice in the length of this movie.
Right.
So, who knows?
And so what do you guys think of the guy that the commander, not the guy from Scrubs, but the like Weasley dude that said, "Is he dead?" at the beginning.
Yeah, Rob.
Rob, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, he's your typical incompetent government employee.
Agreed.
Simple.
He was pretty
no
ridiculous
idea.
all the way through.
He had some pretty terrible ideas, like about the screaming on the tapes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
And the giant condoms.
And the giant condoms.
Yeah,
So
the propaganda war. But that goes to show you how ridiculous everybody thought the stupid propaganda drops were in the first place.
That is another time I actually laughed in this movie when he's like, all right, we'll just drop these giant condoms.
See, penis size is really important to.
And they'll be so terrified. They'll be so terrified. They'll lay down their guns. It's the most ridiculous thing. And what was with the screaming, that if they just think we're crazy or something?
Sounds of war.
The sounds of war.
They'll be so upset they won't want to fight in it.
Yeah, this is your typical CIA guy that is thinking way too hard about some of these things.
But you've got entire think tanks coming up with these ideas.
This is American intelligence.
This is exactly. These are people that sit there and they're like, "Yeah, let's try this. This will work," and it doesn't.
No, well, I don't think either of those ideas would have worked.
No, well, the condom thing maybe.
The other thing that was interesting is he's getting his tour, his let's call it his tutorial into the system. Is Mel Gibson's walking him around. He's like, and we're flying these planes. These aren't even legal in the U.S. And then he shows this, like, I don't know, plane that looks like every propeller plane I've ever seen in my life.
No.
They're all legal.
That was
It looked like a little Cessna or something.
So I'm like, this looks like a regular airplane. What's not legal about this?
It was a Pilatus PC-6 Porter.
Okay. When that was not illegal?
Not illegal. No, it's a short takeoff and landing plane.
So you can land on the side
like
of
a
a mountain
scroll plane.
uphill.
Land on the side of the mountain, you could take off.
So that was legit when he landed on that side of that mountain like that.
Yeah, there's a couple places like that.
See, this is why I wish I could have watched it with you, because there's so many times in this movie I'm like, no.
I only invited him over to watch it like 7
It turns out that a lot of the stuff I thought was not possible is totally possible.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I
See, your opinion
I thought
was
that was
wrong.
pretty good.
See,
Okay.
And I know we're going to discuss it later, but his ditching the airplane and hiding it, completely plausible as
Yes.
well.
All right, well, we'll get to that.
Although they would have had to get out to bring the wing sections in way earlier
Right.
than shown.
Well, the
Good talk. Good talk.
no, I'm just
I like
listening
this
to
part.
listening to the throbbing upstairs.
Hey,
All right, back on
totally
track.
different kind of show upstairs.
All right, so we're basically, he's the surrogate for the audience at this point, right? The audience is being introduced to the operation at the same time that Robert Downey Jr. is, so we can understand everything that's going on.
Is this a trope?
What is?
The whole introducing everybody to everything.
No, I think
for
it's
the new guy.
I don't know if it's a trope. I think it's just a function of screenwriting and how you have to, bring the audience into the moment.
I think the timing was good on that.
Yeah.
Got new guy coming in, audience coming in. What are we doing?
Yeah, I think
I'll allow it.
at this point they bring in the Senator Davenport.
They were gonna have to cancel the movie if you didn't.
Senator Davenport, who is as I said, the guy from My Cousin Vinny, the guy that played the prosecutor, comes in and he's this again. Everyone from the government is not really portrayed in a great light in Air America.
I think that's the point. Why did you not find this
Why do you
to
think
be a
he
good
wrote the
movie?
book?
Have you not been watching CNN? C-SPAN?
He comes in and he's basically thinks that the warlord general is like a
Baggage.
baggage porter, and is like tries to hand him his bag. He talks to him in broken English.
I chuckled at that one. That was pretty good, I thought.
Yeah, I think
this movie had its moments.
no, it had
Hey,
its
look,
moments.
This guy's a moron. That's funny.
The only thing that would have made it better at the end of that if he had like spoken Spanish to him or something like, lo siento or something.
No, he did. He said no tipo or something.
No tip, right? But then at the end, after he realized it would have been even funnier if they'd put a button on it and he'd said "Los cientos" or something.
Like how General Sung threw in there. Do you what was it? Do you hand de Gaulle your bags too or whatever?
Oh
it was?
yeah, that's right.
Good stuff.
Next, we have Robert Downey Jr. takes his first flight. His which we get the scene with the Uzi, which I thought,
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
One of my top lines of the movie.
which was what?
Excuse me, is that an Uzi? Hey, you know what would make a great TV commercial? Wouldn't it? Excuse me, is that an Uzi? Why, yes, it is. Hey, self-defense is no laughing matter. That's why when it comes to number one, I pack an Uzi, except no substitutes.
It's a fantastic.
It is.
This
Especially
movie
because they're
is
talking
full
about the
of
logbook too at the same time.
right.
So it's not even like the front and center conversation. It's
Right.
it's perfectly written.
It's side action.
It's good. It's good. And I like this is where we meet Babbo, right? Their older buddy. And here's what I don't understand about the scene. What the hell is going on with the coloring? They're like,
It shows you that they're insane.
Yeah,
We've got some time off.
Yeah, he's coloring a puppy, man. It just shows how
No,
crazy.
last time I let
crazy
you color,
you
you
got
made
the
the
less
sky
weird
all
guy.
all right, hold on. You're both talking at the same time. You
All
stop.
three talk at the same time.
Yes.
Ready?
My
Go.
goodness. Go ahead.
No, it just shows how crazy they are. He's coloring a puppy. He screwed up the sky the last time. He's and then you've got just to show that Robert Downey Jr. is a less weird guy. He's the one still flying the plane.
It just was totally out of left field.
But that's why I said it at the same time, because that was the whole scene. It's like he's trying to ask for pertinent, actual information. Like, hey, we just almost hit that peak at 3,900 feet.
Right,
Are there
yeah.
any higher peaks in this area?
I told you not to
Stop
use
bothering
blue.
me when I'm coloring.
Yeah, there are. Now let me get back to my color.
But they never go back to it at all. It was just like a one and done, totally random thing.
Perfect.
Well, maybe they only do it.
Well,
in
they
that
never
point.
actually flew together again as an orientation. They were now all separate on their own.
I guess I just started asking this question right around this point in the movie, and I kept asking, where is this going? Where is any of this
Exactly.
going?
Yep.
Right? There is not really a plot that carries this movie forward. There's all kinds of things that happen within the film that really don't end up coming anywhere or serve to move it forward or the ball down the field in any way, shape, or form.
It's almost to me like it's more of a supposed to be a faux documentary. You know what I mean? Like this is literally just the days in this. This is the month of the life of these people. Go.
Could be.
a series of short flights.
Yes.
Each individual plot kind of takes the role of one of the flights.
Okay.
That's why it's scatterbrained kind of everywhere.
It is kind of scatterbrained because I feel like it just jumps all over the place, right? Like right after this, we're at the whorehouse, and
with your girlfriend.
but it's not even his girlfriend.
I know, but
right?
that was funny.
Nancy Travis is in this movie, who I love. I love Nancy Travis.
I do too.
She serves almost no purpose in this movie,
She is my trash can nomination.
except to have nobody, or except to have somebody to rescue her at the end.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's literally the only every scene she's in, she's like a background. Like she's like a set dressing, and then it's like at the end, oh, she's in trouble. We need to go rescue her. That's it. That's the only thing she has. I mean, she's not really a part of this movie at all.
Right. Serves zero purpose.
And it was like the refugee camp was like one of those undeveloped things. It was just there.
Right. It was just there.
Maybe it was the front to the poppy fields. Who knows?
I mean, who knows?
But here's you brought that up too, and I'm going to skip way forward here. If you've got General Soon's troops being moved in on by another rival warlording gang, whatever they are, and they're fighting at each other, and hey, look, a plane coming in. They don't know it's full of weapons. They don't know it's to pick up people. Nobody shot at the plane.
Yeah.
Not once.
It's the only time.
Nobody shot at that plane while it was sitting on the ground.
Well, when we get there, I'll explain why, because I have a theory about this.
All right, go.
I have a theory about this.
Well, she did radio for any planes to come help to
No, she did.
refugees.
Right,
She did.
absolutely. But
but
them,
once it
they
was,
know. But how do
but once it was
rivaling
there,
warlords not know?
Right.
Not
They're
shoot at
listening.
it?
we'll get into that. At this point in the movie, like I said, we're jumping around all over the place, right? We were at the whorehouse, then they go to the Pepsi plant. We realize that they're making heroin at the Pepsi plant. Where suddenly we're
Too bad
playing.
it wasn't Coke.
Yeah, that would have made more sense.
That would have made more sense.
Would have made more sense.
We're playing drunken mini golf. It's just like it all seems like it's not going anywhere. And I enjoy the scenes like as a scene individually. I'm like, okay, they're playing mini golf. The guy, first of all, I would never want to play mini golf with him. He's like shooting up the mini golf course.
He seemed like a pretty good shot, though. I mean, he missed that. He did miss that little lizard or gecko.
He missed, but then like he's trying to shoot the ball and he's shooting up the.
That's hard. It's his
the
golf
ball's
course,
moving.
though.
I understand, but like now we can't use this anymore because you shot it up. This guy's unhinged.
It's mini golf.
He's
It's
drunk.
extra. It's extra.
That's the
obstacles on the
rule.
mini golf.
Sorry.
The guy just seemed like he was totally overboard and
Yeah,
unhinged.
SCI liked him though.
Yeah. Jack Neely.
Yeah, I liked him.
Was great.
I liked him.
He was great. And his character's all over the map too, right? Like that, we go from that, we're like, okay, this guy's a total psychopath. And then the next day, he seems like a totally normal, reasonable dude.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't drinking.
Right.
These guys were hammered out of their mind on that golf course.
Absolutely.
And then they just wake up in the morning and everybody's like, all right, cool.
Well, except
But
Robert Downey Jr. with the
of course.
helicopter
Well,
flying over
this
him
is what
still
happens
didn't wake
next.
him up.
This is what happens next. So he hovers over him. The next morning, Robert Downey Jr. is asleep, and he flies over him with a helicopter,
Yeah.
and he's not awake.
So he's not a light sleeper.
I feel you fly a chopper up on top of somebody, they're going to wake up.
There's a difference between sleeping and passed out.
And there's a difference between people that are around aircraft all the time
Yeah.
and people that have never had chopper
Okay.
over them.
All right. So you think
You don't know, man.
he didn't
You
wake
weren't
up
there.
till he was flying through the air. He was still asleep, being lifted off the ground by a helicopter.
I got to give them credit, though. They tied a perfect knot. They had
Yeah.
a bowline on them. Spot on.
Well, apparently he actually did the stunt.
There you go.
Like it was a real deal. They like flew him around on the end of this rope. It was amazing to me.
Yeah. I thought the part where he actually like went upside down and put his legs together around the rope was kind of risky because like, you could slip out of that little thing he had. So he had to have some other type of harness that wasn't just the rope around him.
Oh, I'm sure they secured him in 3 different ways, but I'm just saying he's
Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought that too. Because it's like, ooh, it just right out.
Like, all right, you're hooked under the arms. Okay, cool. But then when he flipped over upside down, I was like, that's how you fall out of that knot.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
that would have been a very interesting end to the movie right
Like,
there.
just over.
Yeah, so as far as I can understand, the only plot of this movie that is trying to move it forward is this idea of the drug ring, right? It's the retired major. Actually, I don't even remember his character name. The guy from Scrubs,
Right.
the retired major, and Bob, right?
Yep.
And then the General Song are trying to move this heroin under the nose of the senator who is there to kind of scope things out, right?
Right.
And from what I here's what I don't understand. Are the pilots aware this is happening? Because it doesn't seem like they are.
Right. We have the actually they're not. The pilots aren't aware that they're actually doing that, but they are aware. They think it is, but they're not positive when, where, or who has it. Because
so they're not complicit.
You just don't ask questions.
Neely said, "Opium, go home now." We know go home now. Opium, go home now.
Right.
Well, so they knew. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously that it was happening, but they weren't the ones doing it. They were giving the routes to take by their superiors. Now, those superiors, Scrubs Dude and Rob, they were legitimately trying to pawn it off as in a couple of rotten apples are doing this. And
Right,
blah,
but the pilots themselves were not in on it.
No.
It didn't seem like.
No, they were just doing what they were supposed to be doing,
definitely
flying their
not.
routes.
They just flew what they flew.
But but then some of them had their own side hustles going.
Yeah.
Right? Like Ryback had his gun running thing
Get your days
Gun
off,
run,
you
yep.
know?
that it was gonna be his nest egg, his retirement. He's collecting or buying I couldn't even really get my head around exactly what it was he was doing. He had a stockpile of weapons.
He was just getting his weapon stash
right
together for that final sale.
for that final sale.
Building his inventory.
Building his
He
inventory.
was going to
Okay.
retire and move to
Thailand.
That's
Thailand. By the way, I think
Bangkok, baby.
they shot this in Thailand, I think. I'm not sure. Because I was trying to remember this because I was reading about the movie, and Robert Downey Jr. said he had a miserable experience making this film in the country. And I want to say it was Thailand. I can't remember. The country they shot it, he said he'll never go back there again. He won't make a movie there. He won't travel there. He's like, this is it. It was that miserable for him that he will never, ever, ever go back. So if one of you, Clint, you going to look it up? Perfect.
Trying.
While we
I'm
keep
terrible
going.
at this. You keep going.
No, it's all good.
For those that are listening at home, why don't you look it up too? Let us know here.
You'll beat us.
gonna
by
be
email.
faster?
You see why we have an email called "This show is trash," because I didn't even do the basic thing of writing it down. Like I looked it up, I read it, I said, "Oh, that's interesting," and then I brought it up, knowing full well I didn't know what it was.
Didn't commit it to memory.
That's right.
I think it was Cambodia.
So it's terrible. Maybe it was one of those.
Part of it was filmed in L.A.
That's right. Yeah, we know that. Part of it was filmed in Los Angeles. So, essentially, sorry,
Thailand, London, Los Angeles.
Thailand. There it is.
London,
So,
yes.
No, it was not.
The dense jungles of London.
So I was right, and I just wasted 3 minutes.
Thank you. Skip
Thinking
all
I
of
was
that,
thinking I was
edit it
wrong.
to make sure we had
Perfect.
the information dead on.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
Perfect. So essentially, they established that kind of what we were just talking about this whole drug thing. Right when Jack and Robert Downey Jr.'s character Covington take their first flight together, where we know Song has just loaded a bunch of drugs onto their plane, and this is the kind of the part of the movie where Jack is freaking out about the golden BB the whole time. When the flak starts popping up around them, he starts to panic and become very
Yep. This is it.
become
morning.
not what's the word I'm looking for?
Distant.
Not only distant, but
Catatonic.
useless.
Yes.
Useless.
yeah,
That's
that
the word.
too.
That's the word I'm looking for. Just became
shut down.
totally
Totally
useless.
shut down.
Totally shuts down.
He was dissociated.
Yep, I knew
Right.
it. I'm done.
That's it. And so the plane is getting shot down. And this was actually one of the only lines that I wrote down in my outline that I loved is they're going down and they put the Mayday out and Ryback catches the Mayday. And General Song, knowing full well that that's a bunch of drugs, doesn't want anybody else to show up there.
Yeah.
Right.
So they call everybody off.
Yeah.
And Mel Gibson says, wild dog to base, F off.
Yeah.
Base the wild dog. Do you copy?
Right?
Wild dog to base. F off.
And I was like, that was actually really, really great.
That's one of my top lines as well.
I use it daily.
Simple, to the point.
That's right. That's right. But
Maybe that's where I got that phrase from.
this is a B-123 also?
C-120.
C1, that's what I mean, C-123?
Yes.
Okay. This is when we had what I wrote down as the never-ending plane crash.
I wrote
Yes.
that down too. The longest plane slide ever.
You could almost imagine the cables towing that thing across the runway, but they were cut out well.
But they
Longest
had
crash
to knock
sequence ever.
everything off to set it up for later in the movie.
That's right.
Exactly.
Man,
But they didn't have to do it, have it doing spins and parallel park over here and this wing fall
I
off.
feel like if it had been 10 more seconds, we would have been into like airplane territory. Like as far as what I mean, airplane, like the spoof movie, right? Like it would have been like, they would have added, them sipping coffee in the cockpit while it was like spinning around.
Well, that's the Air America on Ice version.
This thing comes down, a plane gets ripped off, the other plane gets ripped off.
Those are wings.
Or the wings, the wing gets ripped off. Then the tail gets taken out.
Yep.
Then it's spinning. It's still going. It gets into the trees and into the brush. It's still going.
It's going 1/4 of a mile an hour the whole time.
Like, how fast was this plane going when it touched down?
On a gravel runway. I mean, can you imagine the friction? Why this thing doesn't have a heat shield? The bottom of the thing's burning up.
Well,
by the
that's
time
what I'm
this thing's-
saying. The whole thing is going. It's gonna be like a Flintstones plane by the time that thing was done. The whole bottom would be gone. Oh,
They didn't have planes in the Stone Age.
in the Flintstones,
They had
they didn't have
pterodactyls.
microwaves either. They just had dinosaurs inside of a box and called it a microwave.
That'll happen.
The dishwasher was like a pterodactyl inside of under their counter. Okay. They also didn't have cars
Wow.
in the Stone Age. I'm talking about the Flintstones. Okay.
Oh my god.
Now, would the Flintstones movie be a good one for the bad
Oh
movies
gosh,
role?
yeah. Well, especially because Steven D'Souza wrote
Well,
that,
we
and
have to
we
now.
have to because we started this podcast off with 2 D'Souza movies right in a row: Street Fighter and Hudson Hawk.
This is pretty much the D'Souza podcast by now.
Well, it was for a little bit,
D'Souza
and
and
then
Associates.
we got away from it. So we got to get back to the D'Souza train at some point. We do have Beverly Hills Cop 3, which is another D'Souza movie, on the draft board also. So,
Love it.
so yeah, so the general shows up after they've crashed, and
Go home now.
that's right. They just take the drugs and leave the pilots,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And
Kind of a tight squeeze in here. Let me help you with that.
right, like, dude, it's like obvious immediately that they're not going to take you home.
Yeah, right. He was hopeful.
He's really hopeful.
Still, he hasn't gotten like
He's not jaded.
Louse pilot weird yet.
No,
He's still naive.
he's still naive.
Right.
But they take off, but then Mel Gibson's character shows up right as some gorillas, not the animals, but the gorilla fighters, are showing up with guns
Moving in on our
to
boys.
kill all of them. And so he picks them up in a chopper, which then immediately is shot down,
Yes.
right?
Well, there was a plane and Mel Gibson in the chopper.
Right.
So 2 get in the plane, and then Robert Downey Jr. gets in the
Right.
chopper.
Jack gets away in the plane,
Yep.
and then so it's just Mel and Robert Downey Jr. that get shot down.
It's what we call a plot setup.
Right. Because what they do is they end up upside down or nose down in a helicopter.
Another great moment coming.
Great moment because they purposefully unseatbelt and fall what seems to be 50 feet
Yeah. to the jungle
to the
floor.
ground, to the jungle floor.
But here's the part of that is hilarious. It's like, I don't want to unbuckle first. I definitely don't want to unbuckle second. Well, we'll flip for it. Flips a coin, throws out. Well, somebody's got to go check.
That was funny.
That was good.
But man, I don't know that was the best course. Was that the best course of action to get out of that helicopter?
Absolutely, because
yes.
right after that, it was shot up right through the cockpit. So I say absolutely that was the best course of action. You do
Okay.
not sit in a plane.
That was the only way they're getting out.
I guess. But with 2 broken
Maybe-
necks would probably be the most likely scenario.
I
in that.
maybe hang on to the plane for a moment, unbuckle, and then like drop feet first.
That's what I'm
maybe.
saying.
But yes,
They're just like, no, we're going to crash through the glass that was still, there.
semi-intact.
Semi-attached.
It's broken. Yeah.
Broken glass. We're going to slice ourselves to bits, fall 50 feet onto our heads on the jungle floor.
And again too, right before that, the back and forth. You say no chemistry. I say it's intentional indifference.
Who said no chemistry? The guy in that
No, he's
Oh.
at the beginning. He says Mel Gibson and Downey Jr. had zero chemistry through the movie, but like legitimately, while they're doing that and he's getting shot down, Robert Downey Jr. is going through the checklist and like, hey, this is bad, and Mel Gibson just like, yep. Gearbox is losing pressure. Yep. Look, he's aware. Yeah, we're screwed. Got it. Check. Done. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just the back and forth between the characters.
Yeah, like I said, there's
any situation.
there's moments in the film that are enjoyable, just none of it ties together in a meaningful way. That's my issue with the film, right? And that's why I think it only works as a hangout movie,
Yeah.
or as you said, more like a faux documentary where
Yeah.
it's like just spending time this is what it was like to be in this outfit of crazy pilots, right? And that's kind of it. Which I don't know if it makes for a super satisfying film experience, but it can be enjoyable in moments.
According to some people I know that read the book, that's why some people hated this movie when it came out. Yes. It wasn't real. It wasn't what the book was even.
Didn't tie to the book. It was made more like a buddy comedy than the book actually was.
Right. So you had you read the book before you saw it or after?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I just remember reading the book. You know, we were like 11 or 12.
Yeah. So if you had to give it a percentage of, like, it was 50% true, 50% BS, what would you put the ratio of this film at to reality?
Versus the book, or versus like Aviation versus?
No, versus the book, like what happened in Air America.
The stories were a little bit different, but I'd say it was about 40% the same.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. That's pretty good. I would assumed it would have been like 10% reality, 90% BS.
They took location and title and go.
Yeah. Right. But that's interesting to hear. That's interesting. This is the moment where the guys essentially are wise now to what's going on with General Song. Now they've seen him come and get the drugs off the plane, and Robert Downey Jr. I mean, I think Ryback already knew what was going on, but like...
I got the sense he did.
Yeah, but like Robert Downey Jr. at this point has kind of got fire in his eyes for the rest of the film towards this whole drug operation. As a side note here, at this point they're kidnapped by these, like, the East Asia version of the Beverly Hillbillies, or whatever these guys are. Their guns are
flintlock.
That's what I'm saying.
In the rain.
In the
jungle. That's probably not a good place to have flintlock weapons in the jungle.
I mean, if it's all you got.
Yeah, it's
better than nothing.
It's at least a club.
Mel's able to charm his way out of it. My point is this is just another part of the movie that ends up really going nowhere and serving no purpose. They have this big moment where everyone's out searching for them and they're lost and they're kidnapped. And then the next morning they're just like back at the meeting with the rest of the pilots, like, nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
And so the whole point of this was just to set up a buyer for him for his weapons so that they could have that point at the end of the movie.
Potentially.
Pretty much.
But then it wasn't even itself really necessary. They could have just said, I'm finally going to unload these weapons, and we didn't even need to know who the buyer was going to be.
But you don't have anything else to fill the time with, because as we know, there's no other plot.
Because it's a weak script. This is what I'm saying. You're proving my point.
But I'm not proving your point. It's still awesome, regardless of that problem. Yes, okay, I will acknowledge that you see a problem with it. I don't see it as a problem. I see it as still awesome. Okay. I've seen plenty of movies with plots that suck balls.
Very true.
A plot is not necessary if the movie's good.
All right, here's another thing that sucks balls about this script is it takes one of the best characters in the movie, Jack Neely, and kills him off screen.
Yeah.
Off screen.
I didn't like that.
Yeah.
They just kill him off screen without the audience getting the satisfaction of knowing what happened or getting to experience it or seeing it or have that emotional payoff or anything. Just like, you just wheel him in on a gurney.
It was on a recon mission.
Terrible writing.
Guys.
From a writing standpoint, that's terrible.
Yeah.
That's just flat out terrible.
Maybe that was intentional.
Intentionally bad writing just to piss the audience off?
Yes.
I can't win with you two, honestly. I can't know how many points I can point out and bring up.
It's the same
and you're just like, that was awesome. I don't know what you're talking about.
You've only had 1 point, though.
This is terrible. It's terrible writing.
Think about it.
We've already acknowledged.
But I'm showing you many examples.
He's one of the likable characters in the movie.
Yes.
And gone.
Just gone.
It just shows, gone in a heartbeat.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I think out of all the pilots, he's probably the only other one that's really followed, part in the story the most, right?
Right.
And then you just let's just knock him off. We'll just reel
what
him
are you
back
going to watch?
Outside of
let's watch the first time he got shot at. Let's watch the first time he got shot at. Now he's flying recon. He's by himself in the plane, just out looking and hoping for a sound back.
Let's show it anyway.
They showed. But now, he starts getting shot at, and he just ignores the fact that the world exists, and nobody snaps him out of it, and he crashes into the ground.
Well, then show that so that the audience can make that connection, right? I mean, besides the two main characters, he's the only one you've spent any time with any character development on. And then just going to, done.
The best part is you can imagine however you want.
That's not how film works.
It's like a choose your own adventure.
No. This is the moment I think that sends Covington over the edge. Robert Downey Jr.'s character decides at this point he's going to blow up the heroin plant
Gonna get him some payback.
Yet another issue that I have with the movie. He's supposed to be a civvy, right? He's a civilian.
Yeah.
He's able to make a timed explosive device.
That was cool, though. I'm with you. All right, he shouldn't know. He's just a pilot. He's just a pilot.
Right.
But that taping them together, pulling the pins, setting them over the burner, that was cool.
I'm trying to think back, though, too, because when they were reading his logbook, like earlier, was anything in that logbook set up there that might have...
If they did, they should have telegraphed it a little better.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
No,
I mean, because it was only bush flying and
bush
crop
flying
dusting, so I don't think so.
Right.
But
That's a pretty sophisticated timed explosive. And the fact, he would have to like
It was
tapering
pretty simple,
it. Yeah,
but
for
it
a
was,
civilian would know to do that and then have to set it up over
now because I saw it in 1991 on a movie.
set it up over a Bunsen burner and get out of Dodge.
Well, his lack of knowledge showed because it didn't work.
It didn't work. Exactly.
I want to know what chemistry class he was in. I mean, that was...
Well, when you have a low-grade explosive, which is a physical
Yes.
explosive, we're not talking about fire.
Right.
And then you have the fuel cans that were there for some reason. I don't know why they had fuel cans inside of the lab.
To run the generators.
Yeah.
And
they
then
got
you had
nothing.
the Bunsen burner.
Yeah.
And it really didn't work. But
It was just
Well,
there,
it
ready
worked
to
in that
go.
it exploded.
Right, but he didn't get away enough.
Drew attention to him, yeah.
And he knocked over stuff beforehand, took shots before it blew up.
That was one of the funniest things. He was like, "It was the new guy. My guards saw him
Running
like,
away.
Really?
Your guards died.
Your guards caught a half of a second glimpse of someone's back of their head, like from however far away. But whatever. We need the plot to know that it was
fireball.
him. We run through the fireball. We need it for the plot for them to know it was him. That's fine. Whatever. But I think it's interesting. It was a good point that Mel's character, showed him afterwards that really you've done nothing.
Right.
to
You
stop
feel better
this,
now?
right? They'll be back up and running.
He
and,
blew up the table.
by
It took him
lunch.
almost 3 hours to get that place back up and running.
Yeah, exactly. And so he's put himself in the crosshairs at this point, and now they've needed a scapegoat. The governor,
It's on plan.
the senator is breathing down their necks essentially. And I like this about the senator, that he came off as a moron, but throughout the film, he kind of shows that he knows a little bit more and he's a little bit smarter than people think he is.
He got the gist that they were giving him the old mushroom treatment
What's the old mushroom treatment?
to keep him in the dark, feed him a lot of shit.
Fair enough. That's exactly, they were giving him the mushroom treatment. And so they're like, okay, this is going to be our guy. This is the scapegoat. We're finally going to, put our head on a platter, right?
Yeah.
And they load up this plane with narcotics, and him and Babbo, or Robert Downey Jr. and Babbo, are going to fly this plane. And immediately after takeoff, they call him in for routine inspection,
Yeah.
right?
I never heard of it.
Which was a brilliant. I love that Babbo was there with him, because if he's not, he flies right into that trap. Donezo.
Yep.
This to me was the moment of the film that I had a total identity crisis. Okay. The whole movie, Babbo, good guy, is like the old grizzled veteran, right? And at one point he goes, "I can't do this, man. I'm 42 years old."
Yeah.
I literally went,
I'm 42.
I took a second. I had put my hands on my coffee table and I said, "What?"
I was like, it's like, I'm 42. I haven't done anything. I'm like, I'm 42. Have I done anything?
It's like, this guy is 42. This is the old guy in the movie, and he's the same age as me. I was like, what? There's no way this guy is 42.
he had some hard miles.
Well, what those Saturday, was it, what they say, every night?
Oh, yeah. How often do you guys go on a bender like this? This ain't a
Right.
bender, kid. This is
This
just
is nighttime.
This is nighttime. Babbo's 42 was at the same time the funniest and scariest in the whole movie. That was the thing that stuck with me.
Well, then he was just like, there's no routine inspection. Goes back to
never
whatever
heard
he's
of
doing,
one.
coloring or whatever. He's coloring his sky, his puppies, whatever.
yeah. He ends up covered in heroin.
Well, that's
right.
That's the flour.
The flour
He was
or
reaching
whatever.
in
Oh,
the
that's
flour
right.
sacks to
Flour,
find
that's
the
right.
heroin.
In the flour sacks. Babbo comes through and they zoom past the routine inspection and end up, as you said, now I'm going to ask you, Mel, because you said this was totally plausible.
Yes.
They he has the brilliant idea, because now they're flying a smaller plane.
Yep.
Right.
This is the
Pilatus.
Pilatus. The crash that they had before with the C-123 with the tail knocked off, and so the fuselage is just open in the back.
Yep.
It's still sitting there.
Yep.
And so he has the idea to crash the plane inside the other crash.
Perfect
Yes.
plan.
You think so?
Yes.
Absolutely. It would work.
I thought it was actually pretty cool.
So remember, they cut their fuel. They
Yep.
only gave them enough
Oh, that's
fuel.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the wings were not full of fuel, which is why it didn't explode into a fireball.
Gotcha.
So there was no fuel leakage or anything because the tanks were empty.
Okay.
So when it sheared them off, those wings are not on their, like, they can come off. You can take them off for, like those Pilatus. You
Yeah.
can actually put 2 or 3 of those in one of those C-123s or a C-130.
So this is the fact that it fits inside of it's even legit.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You could transport multiple small, like 2 and 4 passenger planes inside of a large cargo plane.
Okay.
And we do it all the time for military purposes.
And I think it was perfectly reasonable to think that they would fly around and look around and just see the old crash and not see them. I thought that was
Right.
totally plausible.
Except for the dust. There would have been tons of
Fresh,
dust in that
new
area.
Debris,
Yeah,
small
maybe.
debris.
So they would have.
And again, the big wing sections would have been outside.
Yeah, that's what I was
the
gonna say. I
fuselage.
would've-
Yeah.
He just pulled a little like wing strut in. It's like, oh, let's get this out of the way.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what I would think because they just sheared off the wings as they went into the fuselage. So the wings of that
Right.
smaller plane are going to be outside.
Right.
Oh,
All right. So they hide. Here's the worst part. I'm gonna lay it out here right now, okay? Because there's parts of this movie that I love. I think the movie is better than its rating. I don't think it deserves to be a 5.8. Okay.
Agreed.
I'm
he's coming to.
not coming to Team Air America.
5.9.
No.
I stand by my issues with the movie. Here's the biggest issue.
In this room, you're above a 50% rating.
This is
We are at a 50. That brings us up to like 65, 70. That's
there is an unforgivable sin from a writing standpoint that this movie commits in this next moment, which it renders the plot of the entire movie pointless.
All right.
Okay. After all this hand wringing, the people they knock off to keep quiet, they finally get exposed to the senator, only for the major to be able to say, "You can't do shit to me," and that's just it.
Yeah.
because the president
So then-
loves my
That's right.
ass.
So what was the point of the whole movie? You're like, oh, we can't let the senator find out. Well,
Right.
like he could have found out in the first 5 minutes, and then you could have flooped the middle finger to the guy, and then that would have been it.
Why send the senator in at that point?
Well, so
Why do any
They
of
were
it?
trying to hope that the senator would come back with a.
But if the guy's
feeling about
untouchable,
it. Right?
then
but if you don't
none of
have
it
to play
mattered.
that card,
But it would have helped politically
No.
to be able to say
There's
Senator
nothing-
came, found nothing.
No.
There's nothing bad.
There's
going
nothing
on.
you can say that would forgive a writing faux pas like this. You just took the whole plot and said all of it was pointless. All of it.
Can you
all
not-
of your subterfuge, all of your sneaking around, all of your.
Could you not see any value
All that
in
stuff.
being able to not have to tell somebody that? Like,
But if you're above the law, so to speak, because you're in
Right, but you don't want
in with the
people to know
president,
that.
you don't
what
always
does it matter?
wield the power.
right.
But
Just
he's in with the
because-
president.
So-
Right. Just because you're in with the president doesn't mean you want to implicate the president to a senator who might be willing to cut his own throat and politically.
Well, they established very well at the end that the senator just said they're like, duh, like nothing was going to happen, right?
Right,
Like
but you don't know that.
he wins. There was no point to any. It was all like
Yeah, we
show.
We do know it because at the end they said it. The major got whatever promotion or whatever else.
Right.
So
he was
you know,
promoted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called F up, move up. It's the promotion system.
Well, that may
here.
very well be a military promotional system that I'm not aware of. But as far as a movie goes, and as somebody that's watching a movie, and you have an entire plot revolving around trying to hide something from somebody, only at the end for it to mean nothing, is a writing sin that's unforgivable. Unforgivable.
I still think it has meaning to try. And I still think it would be of value to not have the senator know that, hey, you're in with the president. You would want to send the senator home with a warm, fuzzy feeling that everything's going all right. They tried to do that.
Well,
Didn't
sure,
work out.
but
now I'm going to say, all right, we got nukes.
all right. Well, look, that's fine. Maybe it would be. I'll even give you that. You go,
So there's still a reason
okay,
for
yeah,
to
it would be
happen.
great if he just didn't know, right? but you wouldn't even try remotely as hard if it didn't really matter. I mean, they were talking like, "Oh my gosh, they're going to find out. They're going to. This is all going to end. This is going to." I mean, like they were wringing their hands like crazy.
Yeah, but they kind of leaked it out a little bit here or there too. I mean, they're over dinner and he says, "Yeah, we got a couple bad apples.
Right.
Rob, go whatever. Go figure it out. Go find out who it is."
But they go to great lengths to make it seem like it's not them.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
Why?
Because then if they have a fall guy, they can say they took care of the problem. It's over and over and done with.
But that doesn't matter because he can't touch him anyway.
But you'd rather not.
But see, think about this. You're playing Monopoly, right?
You're not understanding the simple thing that you'd rather not have to go to your nuclear solution if you don't have to.
Right. You get that get out of jail free card. You don't wield that every turn. You hold on to that till you absolutely need it.
I don't agree. And even if that might be true in principle or in real life, we're talking about a film. We're talking about a movie that people are going to watch, and that from an audience standpoint, from you're trying to satisfy with a resolution of a satisfying resolution of a plot, that is not the way to do it. Regardless of whether or not in reality that might be something that's beneficial for the guy to do.
I'm not even this fired up about the 2-minute sliding airplane sequence.
It's not even about fired up. You guys are talking about arguing from an argument of reality, and
I love you.
Right.
But I'm talking about from a film standpoint, from a script, from an audience standpoint. If you're having to watch this movie, you're sitting here for 2 hours, subjected to this plotless, flaming pile of crap,
then
and then at the end, only to find out that none of it really meant anything.
Oh,
That's not satisfying. It's an unforgivable writing sin. Forget what would have worked or happened in reality.
Here's where we go back to. I think you look at these movies less for the actual entertainment.
That's not true. That's not true. I'm just talking about. I'm not even talking about from a production standpoint. I'm talking about from an audience standpoint. From just enjoying it. I sat there as an audience member and tried to enjoy this movie, and it's not satisfying when there's no resolution to what you've based the entire plot around. That's not about me saying, well, the way they made the film, from a filmmaking standpoint, that it's absolutely from the bones of the movie, the script itself was already a failure before they even shot the thing.
I'll agree with that.
I disagree because I enjoyed it 100% all the way through. I did not feel like, oh, they got me. They screwed me over. I mean, at no time during that scene, it's like, all right, yeah, okay. So that takes care of that. And then they carry on. Now what are they going to do with all these guns and these people and the girl and all that stuff? And I continued watching and enjoying the movie. I never felt upset about it.
This episode brought to you by Uzi.
Like I said, we'll go down, we'll grab you a Snickers. We'll
after this part in the movie, Ryback has decided that he is going to get out and he is going to sell off his cache of guns. And he has the Asian hillbillies that he's going to sell these to. And so at the same time that he's doing that, we find out that a war, or no, not a war, but a battle has broken out between the guerrilla fighters and General Song's army at this refugee camp.
They found the poppy field.
They found the poppy fields. And so Ryback has this moment of crisis where he has to decide between his retirement and saving Nancy Travis's character, who he thinks is the only person he's showing up to save.
Yes. We got plenty of room. We'll just put her in the back.
We'll put her in the back.
Well, but even before, I thought it was kind of interesting, kind of funny before he's like, Robert Downey Jr.'s like,
It's only 5
it's only 5. Yeah, we're closer, but it's only 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes, not a big deal. Let's just keep going. Like he's goading them into it.
Yeah, and when they get there, they realize that she's not leaving unless they take everybody.
Right.
And so, how many people can you even fit on a C-123? I mean, that's what they were flying, right? So
at least 65.
Looked like they had a lot more than 65 people there, but they essentially cram. He's got to make the decision: dump the guns,
right,
or save the hostage, not the hostages. Save the hostages.
Better movie all of a sudden. Way better.
The refugees.
And you may not know this, but the C-123 was also in Con Air.
Oh, is that the same?
That's the same plane.
Same plane from Con Air. Okay.
So think of how big that plane was in perspective.
Yeah.
With the extra rooms and compartments and
Right. They made it out to be like this huge Titanic-sized aircraft.
Right. Well, he makes a decision to dump the guns, and then we're sitting here, and this is my theory about why they hadn't shot at the plane yet, because they have to wait for the absolute right moment for there to be an explosion for Mel Gibson to run away from. That's why.
So plot armor on the plane.
So he even hesitates at the end, like to turn. There's this moment where everyone's running and jumping on the plane, and he turns and he like hesitates for a minute, and it almost made me laugh because it was like he was waiting for them to blow it up so he could run away from the explosion, like within the film.
And again, fragmentation grenades do not cause secondary explosions. Fragmentation grenades.
Right.
Just saying.
Still entertaining.
It is entertaining.
Yes. But they get away, and he thinks, well, my retirement is shot, but they're just going to sell the plane because the plane doesn't exist. That's right.
Doesn't exist. None of it exists.
Yep.
And so they ride off into the sunset to live happily ever after in Thailand.
Right.
At least for a little while. They run some kind of lottery scam, apparently, according to the
That's the other funniest part of the
postscript.
The postscript. Robert Downey Jr. apparently has become some sort of
computer
genius where he's going all Office Space before Office Space and running some sort of lottery scam to pay pay Mel Gibson back for his guns.
I don't think it was I think he just used an eraser and a pencil to change his lottery numbers on the ticket. This is Tyler we're talking about.
And that was the movie. So at this point, it's time to give some awards to Air America. And so we're going to start, as we always do, with our Will Patton Award. Our Will Patton Award is the award we give out to someone that was in a supporting role, but that was really bringing the intensity and just going 110%. And I'll kick us off as you guys get your thoughts together on this. But for me, and hopefully we're on the same page, but I'm interested to see what you guys think. I have Art LaFleur as my Will Patton Award winner, the guy that played Jack Neely.
Yep, absolutely. He would have gone higher if he survived to the end.
Right.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same boat. If he was in the movie more, he was like really the only other character out of the pilots anyway that they really developed.
Right.
And if he would have survived to the end, I would be putting him in my top 3, but definitely Will Patton.
Awesome. Mel?
I actually went with Chanarong Suwanapa.
Was that the guy that played General Song?
No, that was Kwan, the kicker.
Kwan.
Oh,
Kwan.
The guy who jumped out of the
He's the guy who fell out of the plane and was dangling.
Yeah. He was
I tell
great.
you, if you're like in your mid 40s, late 50s, I don't know where he was at. He was old. But
He was great.
if you're hanging out the back of the plane,
He probably was. He was probably 36 years old.
if you're being dangled at 250 miles an hour, that's that.
That was climbing back up the rope.
Right, and he was that guy that was always there, just did what he was told.
Yeah.
He was a good supporting guy.
No, he was good. He was good. So with 3 votes, Jack Neely will win. Art LaFleur will win the Will Patton Award with the honorable mention to, what was his name again?
Chanarong Suwanapa.
All right, honorable mention to him. He was great. We'll move on to our other award that we give out, which is our Trash Can Full of Dirt Award, which is someone that's part could have been played by a trash can full of dirt. And this movie has no shortage of choices. So go ahead.
Mine here, maybe, the character in myself just felt like he was a piece of trash to me. So I'm going to go with Rob Deal, Dave Marshall Greer's character there.
Okay.
Rob, the CIA intelligence guy. He just, in general, total trash, 100%. And at first, is he dead? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That guy was just
He didn't really bring a lot to the table.
Yeah.
Even from
That could have been anybody.
Even from a performance standpoint.
Anybody could have played those same stupidness a little better.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no shortage for sure. I even thought about throwing Nancy Travis in here, but I like Nancy Travis too much to do that to her.
I don't think she did anything.
I don't know that it was her
wrong.
fault.
She didn't
It wasn't her fault. Just right. It's her character could have just been played by a Travis. But I also went with Rob Deal, David Marshall Grant on that. I think, it might have been better off putting a trash can full of dirt in there. Just tape the condom to it, and
It would fit over it.
it probably would.
This episode, we have the Condom Full of Dirt Award.
That's right. Who's your condom full of dirt?
All right, So I originally went with Nancy Travis for Corinne Lindros, but I like her from other things. So I'm going to go with the nightclub singers. Wasan, Uda Mayodin, and Misak Nakarat.
The fact that
a horse with no name.
The fact that you took the time to go look up their names. I love it. You spent more time on that than they were in the movie.
Wasan and Misak, if you're listening, email the show at thisshowIstrash@gmail.com.
Please do it. I had David Bowie as my not that David Bowie. There's another David Bowie. The other David Bowie.
The cool David Bowie.
The guy that played he was one of the pilots. He was the guy that played Weird Al's friend in UHF.
Yep.
Right? The dude that had usually wore a bandana with all the hair coming out. Every time he's in the movie, he had 2 lines and he just was this dumb look on his face. He added nothing to the movie at all. All of the other side character pilots, I feel contributed in some way, shape, or form. They could have had instead of 9 pilots, you could have 8 pilots and a trash can full of dirt, and it would have been the same as having David Bowie in there. So sorry, David. I love you, but not on this one. But I think we have 2 votes for Rob Deal, right? So what was that character, the actor's name?
David Marshall Grant.
David Marshall Grant is our winner of the trash can full of dirt award.
Good job, Dave.
Good job, Dave. And then we're going to move on to our top 3 performers. So who were the people that you felt gave the best 3 performances? We're going to reverse it this time. We're going to start with Mel, and we're going to come around this way. Mel, top 3 performers in this movie for you.
Number 3, I went with Art LaFleur as Jack Neely.
Okay.
Because really there were only 3 main characters in the film. I don't count the CIA dudes.
Okay.
Because they don't exist. Mel Gibson for number 2.
Okay.
Solid, but Robert Downey Jr., Too Damn Hard.
Why did you give him number 1? What was it?
It's too damn hard. Just that opening sequence.
Just that by itself.
I think it showed a little bit of growth in him through the movie.
Okay.
I think he just did a wonderful job.
Okay. Fair enough.
I think, there was no shortage of candidates for the trash can full of dirt. I think when you come to top 3, there is a shortage of candidates. But third, I'll go with Billy. I'll go with Robert Downey Jr. I thought, he had his moments where he was Robert Downey Jr. in this.
Yeah.
You could kind of see it coming out.
I feel similar. I pulled him down 1 because I expected more Iron Man.
Yeah, right. I expected, but I also was okay, but he's young yet. He's still young in his career, but you kind of could see it coming out. So I had him 3. I had Mel Gibson as Gene at number 2.
Okay.
And then I had General Soong, who's Burt Kwok, at number 1. I thought General Soong was, I like General Soong.
All right.
So I got him.
I thought he did really good.
Yeah. I like the character.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Tim Thomerson at 3. That was Babbo. I like Babbo. Yeah. I really like Babbo.
Tim Thomerson was good.
I liked his performance in there. When they're coloring, it's man, you colored the sky. It looks stupid. It's that's just fantastic. He had a couple of good things in there. And then I'm going to go with Robert Downey Jr. and then Mel Gibson.
As number 1.
Okay.
I actually don't have Mel Gibson in my top 3 at all.
Understood.
I love Mel. He's one of my favorite actors, but I just felt like he was sleepwalking through this movie. He was in some parts doing his charming Mel Gibson thing, but
was he playing a guy who was so over jaded by this? What I mean? At one point, he even delivers the fact that we have no retirement plans. We're not even here. This isn't it. He's legitimately doesn't care. He's just going to get his stuff and just bail out. And he's done.
And that's why
that's what he played was over it.
He was just fed up, and that's why I get where you're coming from, James. But I think the character was just, I'm just going to sleepwalk through this. I've got my gun running, a retirement plan here that he had to dump. But I think that was just the character.
Well, at number 3, I had the guy that played General Soong, which is Burt Kwok. And great performance. I actually had Lane Smith at number 2. It's the guy that played Senator Davenport. I really liked that performance. I thought he totally sold it. let's say the sheep in wolves clothing, or the wolf in wolf in sheep's clothing, right? Where he was much more dangerous and aware than he presented. And I thought that was really good. And then I had Robert Downey Jr. at number 1. I thought he just seemed like he was trying a lot harder than everybody else in the movie. And while it wasn't like classic Robert Downey Jr. stuff, I agree with most of what everybody said. I thought compared to everybody else in the movie, he gave the most overall best performance. So we have to answer the question, and I'm interested to see if opinions have changed at all. And I don't feel like they have, but is Air America a bad movie?
Yeah, usually it's so easy for me to say, absolutely, it's a bad movie, but it was great. I don't see why this is a bad. I understand. I acknowledge your point. I just didn't care. I mean, your opinion didn't cross to me ever while I was watching it first, and now after having heard your opinion, I'm still gonna watch it. I don't care about that, I guess. No, I think it's a good movie.
Bad, definitely. Yeah, I don't. If it's on in the background somewhere, so be it. But it's not like one of those bad movies where I'm like, oh, it's bad, but it's good sort of thing. I'll watch it again.
Right.
I'm kind of like, I'm like Mel Gibson. I'm just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you. How about you, Mel?
It's not bad. Not everything has to be perfect to be good.
Not everything has to be good to be good.
Perfect.
Yeah. Perfect. Does it have to be good to be good?
Wow.
I think this podcast has established that it doesn't have to be good to be good. It can be so bad that it's good. I think that's the biggest problem with this movie is it's not bad enough to be good. It is decidedly average. I think it's not overrated. I don't think it's underrated. I think it's properly rated.
Right where it's supposed to be.
5.8, right where it's supposed to be.
Above middle. Barely.
And so, yeah, I guess I couldn't say good or bad. I think my rating is meh.
on a scale of to meh or meh to meh.
Right. Exactly. The other important question that we need to ask is, would Arnold Schwarzenegger make this movie better?
Ooh, Jack Neely.
And I think absolutely. As Jack Neely be great.
No, Jack
awesome.
Neely had to be Jack Neely.
No,
Yeah, Jack Neely.
it'd be Arnold. The Golden BB. Be great.
I would
General
say
Sun?
that or the Senator, one or the other.
Senator. That'd be fantastic. Yo, take my bag.
That's right. Listen, Arnold could have played Mel Gibson's character. He could have played Robert Downey Jr.'s character. He could have played the Senator.
I want to
He
watch
could have
the
played
recut with him as all of them.
He could have played Nancy Travis's character. Okay, it would have been a better movie. He played any of the parts. That's all.
Fair enough.
He's punching iguanas with a silencer.
That's what I'm saying.
He got a pillow on his hand, punching iguanas. Middle of the night.
He wouldn't have missed that shot on the iguana if he was Jack Neely. I'll tell you that. He'd say hasta la vista and then he'd be gone.
If I want to sit out at night and shoot iguanas on my miniature golf course,
Well, I gotta tell you what.
I got to wake up the neighbors.
I tell you what, guys. Out of all the movies we've done, I would never have expected Air America to get the most heated out of all of the movies that we've ever talked about.
So angry. You just kept saying the same thing over and over too. It's like was completely irrational. I loved it. You were so mean.
Passionate about the writing, man. It's all about the writing.
And with that insult, we'll end it. So thank you for listening. Next week, we'll be going off the draft board for a special episode because we've got a guest joining us from Texas. So we'll be discussing the worst Western. Well, I don't know. Can we call it a Western ever made? Wild Wild West from Will Smith.
The Will Smith?
The Will Smith one.
I don't know. It's borderline, that's for sure.
I don't know if you can call that a Western.
Yeah.
It takes place in the West.
It's a comedy, though, I think.
Yeah. Well, no, it's definitely is it an intentional comedy? I think it was an intentional comedy. Have any of you guys seen Wild Wild West?
Oh, yeah. I saw when it came out.
It was a coon
That's
age
for, what,
ago.
98 or something?
Yeah. I have absolutely no memory of it. I saw it.
It's based on a Cool Mo D song from the 70s, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it really?
Wow, wow, West.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what it's. I mean, I know that there's a lot of backstory there, and I'm interested to dig into it because This, I think, has a lot to do with a lot of studio intervention and bad ideas being thrown together into a pot. And then they thought just by putting Will Smith into it, who was the golden boy at the time, that it would all work out and everything would be fine. And this was kind of famously his first big flop in his career after knocking out Independence Day and Men in Black.
See, but I think that gets back to when you see it, though, because I remember seeing it. Like I said, was 98 or something like that, 99, somewhere in there. It's like I saw it as a late teenager.
Yeah.
I kind of remember liking it, so it might be.
Yeah, I think the only reason I don't remember liking this movie is because I think my brother got into it before I did.
And loved it.
And he would watch it all the time.
Almost as much as Waterworld.
You're right. Like he watched Waterworld all the time. So it was like always on in my house. And so I think I just developed a hatred for it for that reason.
Like Baby Shark.
I'm interested to go back and revisit it because I have no memory of the movie at all.
Blocked it all out.
So I'm just going to go in clean and see what happens. And we'll go from there. But any final thoughts, guys, before we sign off?
Quotes. We missed a couple of great quotes.
Yeah, let's hear what you guys think about the little things.
We talked about the silencer.
Yeah.
We talked about Base to Wild Dog. Mm-hmm. We talked about the Bender.
Yeah.
General Lu Sung with the senator.
Yes.
In the back of the, they were in a helicopter or plane.
Plane.
Sorry. We made Marshall Key a very nice offer. And the general comes back. I know Marshall Key. Marshall Key is small time. He went to have liquor store in America. I'm not going from being warlord to liquor store owner. So then, Ryback gets in. Ryback. This is not Ryback. Wrong movie. Ryak gets in there with, why don't you tell the senator what you really want? Holiday Inn, Southern California, own and operate.
I like that. Yeah, I like that
good.
part.
Yeah, that's good.
I like right when they're on the orientation flight and they go to land and they just done the Uzi thing and the little commercial, but they land like, there's guys in the woods, and Robert Downey Jr. jumps back in the plane, grabs the Uzi, and he starts to point it out, and he's like, oh no, I know these guys. I'm like, don't do that, man. It was awesome. That's part of why Babbo, was it?
Babbo
got up in my list so hard. That scene there was hilarious.
It's good stuff.
Don't do that.
I think this was General Sung where he said, you take care of silly suitcase man, yes?
And then, of course, Major Lamond and CIA dude Rob Deal. No, Davenport runs the Center Prayer Group. With a guy like that, you don't bring up the subject of BJ's. You wait for him to bring it up.
Yes.
The pause there just makes that line.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at my list here. Other things I wrote down. I think we covered some of them throughout the podcast here.
Well, now's your chance if there's anything you
missed. Yeah, there's one other one here. I think this was when they were responding to at the end where Mel Gibson finally says, "Oh, okay, let's do it," and he finally radios back, "Yeah, we're going to respond. Sorry, I was in the phone booth changing clothes."
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be like a Superman reference? Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
So, overall, good movie.
Oh, yeah. You know what? You've totally changed my mind. This is the greatest movie that has ever been made. No, I think I already said that. About Air America?
Yes, about Air America.
There is no movie that surpasses this one.
Well, the adult version of this film is not bad either.
Oh my God. Mel Vandy, everyone.
Just getting out of Dodge.